welcome everyone. Good evening. This is session number 5, correct me if I'm wrong, session number 5 of this Enlightenment series that is hosted by Human in the Making Foundation. Now, a little bit about the foundation. The Human in the Making Foundation is an organization aiming at educating, motivating, empowering, and enabling the individuals, families, and communities, and to encourage them to take part in contributing to the advancement of material, intellectual, and scientific, and spiritual civilization of humanity. And some of the most fundamental principles that are being promoted by the Human in the Making Foundation. Number 1, everyone has the right to live a life which is characterized by honor and dignity. Number 2, the purpose of human life is for each individual to dedicate all of his or her resources to the service and the best interest of humanity. Number 3, the honor and dignity of any person are not defined by the color of his or her skin, nor by his or her economical or political status. His or her glory and honor reside in offering an unconditional service to the advancement, justice, peace, and unity of all. Number 4, the importance of equality of rights and privileges for both men and women. Number 5, the abolishing of the extremes of wealth and poverty and the recognition of spiritual solutions and long-term humanitarian resolutions. Number 6, the harmony of true religion and true science and balanced relationship between faith and reason. Number 7, the importance of independent search after truth for every individual and refraining from imitation and blind obedience to anyone. And with that final point, this is the topic of our session, which is the independent investigation of truth. Dear Dr. Riazati, please, we are ready for this next session.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much for reading the objectives. Tonight, I would like to look at the truth as it is out there, which we are facing today, and that is the destruction of the world order as we know it and in front of our eyes. That is to say, it appears as humanity has reached a degree of maturity that requires some kind of transformation. Transformation at the individual level, at the societal level, as well as the governing levels. You do not need me to explain what that means, but something is very clear, that when we mature, our needs mature, and therefore we have to get into the habit of change. It is interesting terminology. Habit usually means keep up what are you doing, but change means never get used to anything, rather let be concerned with the stage and the needs at the time, here and now, not there, not then. When you look at the political realm, which is a good example these days, look at what's happening in Russia and Ukraine, which is only 2 examples of many, many such incidences that are appearing and occurring throughout the world. What is the real problem? Can we understand the problem? Is it really the problem is about independence, the problem is about imperialism. What is it that the problem is before we can get into the solution? My research shows that existence, when you say something exists, by existence you mean natural organic growth. That is to say, humanity from a day which had no beginning, as you know, we can go back to 700 million years, and then we still can find that there is an existence and human being existed. I do not doubt one bit Darwin and origin of a species, that existence has been there, but the existence comes with different forms, but most importantly, with most distinguished characteristic. We believe, as you know, that reality of a person, reality of a man, is his spirit, is his thought, is not his body and the physical structures. And perhaps those people who believed or took Darwin to mean that we are from animals, or even there are scientific evidences that are cousins, at least my cousin, I do not want to say your cousin, my cousin is chimpanzee. And chimpanzee and I have about over 90% of genetic resemblance. So please do not get offended. It is only about me and chimpanzee. You're all exempt. But the fact is, reality of chimpanzee is distinguished with what we call animal spirit or animal kingdom. That means human has a distinctive soul, and although at some stages of development we have been like other species, but nonetheless we have been in reality a distinguished existence. To make it short and sweet, there is a form and there is a reality. From the formative standpoint of view, you always can look like many things else. But from reality standpoint of view, not even two elements can be found that are exactly the same. And as you know, the distinctive feature of human existence or the soul is his thoughts. That means we understand the person by how he thinks. How he thinks influences how he feels, and how he feels or she feels influences how he acts or reacts. So what I am trying to underscore is that there is a principle of development. Development in a physical structure, development in a spiritual advancement, and development in a mental understanding and capacity. And at each stages of these developments, humanity has experienced a new paradigm. Now, please pay attention that this development is as a whole natural, organic, dynamic. That is to say, no one can prevent it, withstand it. It is like perhaps like a river that is just running and no one can really prevent it. Why this is important? I believe that the current structures of the world, the reason that is falling apart is because they have not paid attention to this organic development and the needs for a higher structure or manifesto or ideology. We see it in a political realm, we see it in a social cohesion that doesn't exist, in an economical realm. Now, to make it short and sweet, we have gone through stages which family, tribe, nation, and now we need a more global, cohesive order. When the new stage comes, but humanity chooses to either fight the new energy, new stage, or stay at the previous stage, then we experience what we call crisis. Please pay attention. So crisis mainly is when we do not appreciate or understand to live based on the requirement of the age and the developmental stages of the time, globally speaking. Now look at what's happening today. Before I go further, there is a book which highly I recommend to understand this thing. It's called Change and Habit. And the underline title, The Challenge of Our Time by Arnold Toynbee. Toynbee is one of the great historians. Some people believe that he is after the Herodot. I leave it to you to understand his position. In this Change and Habit, he is trying to say that people, when they get used to something, then they prevent organic energy. But when they acquaint their mind, their heart with change, then they see the orders of the world in a more organic, cohesive orders. What does that mean? And I give you another book that you know where am I coming from. There is a book called Change. This is one of the most important books that can help to understand how problems forms and how we can resolve problems. The principles of problem formation and problem resolution. That is to say, what is it that contributes to this problem that we have in society, individually, socially, and institutionally, and also what should we do to resolve it. Now that I said all this, we have to accept something. Nobody can deny that the world has experienced new energy. See, I do not talk religiously, I'm not talking philosophically. This is supposed to be a neutral platform. only for the people who rather to seek the truth and to think about what the truth could mean to them, and what is the value of truth. And that requires an encouragement, that requires critical thinking, and that requires ability to change. Without those three, I am afraid that we may think we are elevated in thinking, but we may not be so. There is an energy that has been released. This energy, when was that really released? Some philosophers, some political scientists, some spiritual leaders, they believe that this energy is always there and going forward. But there are a moment in the history that the energy will culminate one stage and it goes to the next stage. Please pay attention. For instance, we once were living in the cave individually, then we got together, became a family. So that is an energy that propagates itself. Now, when you are a family, if you choose to live exactly as you lived in the previous stage, you experience crisis. Make sense? Why? Because you have developed. And please pay attention, as Bob says in Persian Bayan, and many philosophers such as Russell, such as Kant, such as Socrates have pointed out, every stage is a culmination of all the previous stages. That is to say that when you go to the tribe stage, you do not lose the family stage. But at the same time, you cannot ignore that now you are a tribe stage, and therefore you have to live with a new principles, new laws, new ordinances, and new social cohesion. The moment that you want to ignore the natural stage of tribalhood, then you have problems. Because in your mind, you still want to continue that habit of being a family only, and you only be concerned about your own family, and you hunt, you kill, you protect only your family, but you forget that now you are a member of a tribe, and therefore your sacrifices are needed, your new principles are needed. When humanity ignores this change and prefers to mentally exist or keep up with the previous stage, that we call crisis. And victory is when we become in tune with the new energy at the level that it has been released. Now, let's go further. It has nothing to do with religion. It has nothing to do with race. It has nothing to do with gender. It has to do with the natural propagation of development of human race. Make sense so far? That is to say, you cannot ignore it. That is to say, you cannot fight it. The more you fight it, the more depressed you get. The more you ignore it, deny it, then you become more disturbed, more insecure, and then fear actually becomes the prime principle for your life rather than love and compassion. Please pay attention. Another very important factor, which I like you to consider. These developmental stages are not numbered. They are an infinity. What we know so far, that we are at this moment in a global stage. That is to say, no more we can live as a nation only, or as a tribe, or as a family. And please pay attention what I reiterated earlier. When you are a nation, that means you are a tribe, that means you are a family, that means you are an individual. Now, an energy has been released that whether you want or not has called a stir. It had caused the equilibrium of humankind to become disturbed. It appears that this new energy calls all the minds and the hearts to say that the day of ingathering means the day of separation has come. Do you remember that famous statement by Jesus? Don't think I have come to bring peace. Nay, I have come to bring sword. I do not want to dwell on this as religious phenomena. The way that I look at this is this. When the new energy comes, when the new phase of reality comes, the people who choose not to intone themselves with this new energy, they cause separation, they cause disorder. Please pay attention. This is why you can see at the time of great adventures, separation takes place. Look at the Middle Ages. Look at the scientific development, industrial development, philosophical development. Don't you think it caused the order to turn into chaos? Some people still want to live as they lived during the Middle Ages. Fundamentalism, fanaticism. Do you remember your best friend Galileo? Do you remember he was forced for house arrest because he just recognized that the earth was not really the center. And now even they tell Galileo, do you know what, Galileo? The whole solar system doesn't work that much. It is so vast, these whole galaxies, that the earth and the sun are not to be really that much considered centered. But when he created an star, Copernicus, Kepler, see, I'm talking only on the scientific level, the world started to separate. Those people who want to stay with the old way of thinking, old way of feeling, they got into trouble. They got into psychological disorders. Why? Because they wanted to forget, and they couldn't, the fact that the change has come. And the best way to deal with the change is to accept that there is a dialectical, paradoxical order in place. What do I mean? Dialectical and paradoxical. What does that mean? Look at it. We today, 21st century, we are still having countries that they say, we want to go back to the old. What happened to the Soviet Union, my friend? Why Poland separated? Why Ukraine separated? Come back, come back. I want to be the Superman. We are all Superman. But you know that that is a chaos. What you experience, that you see that the one part of the world and majority of the world say, no way, no way. We want a new order. The clash between the new world order and the old world order creates destruction, creates something that we call crisis. Please pay attention. This paradoxical order, one breaks down the old scheme. Not that it wants to break it down. It wants to be a bad guy. No. When the new order comes, the old order perishes. But those who still want to hold on to it, they actually experience the crisis. This is why, when we look at today, we can actually learn a lesson that humanity is growing. When humanity is growing, new principles are needed. See, this is investigation of truth. Truth means face the reality as it is for here and now. Assume that when you are 12 years of age, you cannot assume that you are 5 years old. Your parents cannot treat you like you are 5 years old. You need a new paradigm to deal with the 12-year-old age. This is why, please pay attention, I, as a psychologist, I experience it every day. Why some people from biological age, they are 30, 40, 50. From mental age, they are 10. From emotional age, they are still at their childhood. Why is it? When you get stuck, according to Freud, so beautifully said it, he said, at each stage of your life, try to resolve the complexity. Don't think by denying. Don't think time shall fix it. Time doesn't fix anything. Time just gives you an opportunity that you fix it. This is why. If somebody says, how old are you? You only can see the biological age that these days you can track it anyway. You can ask Sharon Burgess, gives you all sorts of vitamins. Then you look like 12 years old, even if you are 50, 60, 70. But is that really a natural order? How about your emotional age? How about your mental age? Why is it that people, although they are married, they are separated, emotionally separated, mentally separated, but at the same time, nobody can live without having a relationship? Do you see that? Do you see this paradox? So what is it? We need to have a relationship at the individual level, at the community level, at the national level, at the international level. When these maturity do not go hand in hand, then we will see chaos takes place. Then we will see disorder takes place. So what am I trying to emphasize? What am I trying to underline is what we see in the world in appearance might be very sad and many people are dying. You should be heartless not to see the children, women, humans who are suffering. But that is not the only thing that humanity should do. Why we got here? What did we miss? Was there a new reality that we didn't face? Wasn't the Enlightenment period of 16th, 17th century tried to tell us that that order that we were used to doesn't work? Why those philosophers such as John Locke, such as Paine, such as Hobbes, why they couldn't change anything? Is that a philosophical problem? Is it an economical problem? Is it really a problem that can be fixed by military, can be fixed by sanction? See, these are the crises that we have to understand, why we came to this point. In my opinion, and in the mind of many, many, many philosophers, scientists, we have ignored the fact that we are one race. We have forgotten that the whole humanity is actually one temple. We have forgotten the fact that we are systems, and system has parts, and parts collaborate with other parts based on certain principles. I believe that is the truth of our age, the truth that requires change in individual perception, change in a social scheme, and most importantly, change in our governmental institutions. Let me explore. We are far away from what am I explaining. I know Immanuel Kant, Plato, in his Republic, imagined of a beautiful city, a just city, Madineh Fazile, it is a utopian city. I know Immanuel Kant taught that we have to think globally, we have to consider our acts, how does it impact the world? But you know, neither Plato nor Kant were able to change anything. Why is that? Please pay attention. Is it a philosophical problem, or is it something else? Because of the limited amount of time that I have, I believe there is a spiritual problem. What do I mean by a spirit? I am not referring to religiosity. Religion is a means to become spiritual. A spirituality is the equivalent to having meaning in life. Live with meaning, and meaning means that you understand that you and other human beings are actually one body. There are many, many works that you can read. Do you know, if you are Persian readers, Sa'di, a poet, Rumi, these things, their works have been translated, Rumi by Nicholson. You see that the pivot, the central theme for all those great thinkers were, how can we have oneness of humanity? But it was an idea. It was a philosophy. And it did not really bother human beings that much globally, because only few individuals had those insights. Perhaps every 100 years, 200 years, the people such as Kant, Spinoza, Plato would appear, and they say something, and it would go into the books. But as a whole, the people were happy, were organized based on those tribal thinking or national thinking. At this time, you cannot do it anymore. Is the concept of oneness of humanity is not anymore a philosophical concept, is not anymore a religious concept, is an existential quest. That means our existence depends on that realization of that truth, that we are all one family. We are all one temple. We may appear, see, this is where Darwin came in. We may appear in different color, different shape, different characteristic, but essentially we are one. This realization of oneness of humanity causes disorder, destruction of those ideas that still want to deny the fact that there is no Russian, there is no Polish, there is no Persian, there is no Arab, there is no American. These are only a virtual characteristics. When the virtual becomes real or perceived to be real, then you have crisis. Because reality is in conflict with something which is pseudo-reality. Do you understand what am I saying? That you assume you are 50, but you are actually, I know you eat a lot of vitamins, you are fasting day and night, but remember, when you are 70, you are 70. Accept it. Accept 70, but try to keep healthy rather than trying to keep 70. How can you become 70, for God's sake? Rather than saying, I want to be 70, say, no, no, no. I want to live a good 50, to go to 100, to go to 120. But for God's sake, remember, growth is inevitable. So the conclusion that I have is, ladies and gentlemen, the current crisis also brings victory. We have had crises before. This time, the magnitude is higher because the recognition of a higher principle is needed. Do you remember? We had World War I, but we came out We created a League of Nations, didn't we? See, crisis, victory. But why? We forgot. League of Nations was a good thing. You look at the principles of League of Nations. My God, if we just lived it, we had less distress. But do you know why we created League of Nations? Because we were tired of war. We were not attracted to peace. We were tired of war. Therefore, because of fear, we created League of Nations. And we forgot that psychologically, fear just weakens you. Fear doesn't give you a strength. Fear just prevents you for a while. But then you forget. Then you find a way to deal with that fear. This is why, do you know, Belgrade, when home Belgrades are high, the people go and buy and find these technologies to catch the thief. But do you know, at the same time that you're buying that device, there are some people to break that device and come up with a new system. That, why? Because fear causes this development. So what should we do? Everyone is yelling, crying. No, love should be the basis for the principles, not fear. Do you see that the fear caused League of Nations? After that, we ended up to the Second World War. Then we fear again caused us to have United Nations. Do you see? Crisis, victory, but devoid of a principle which was called oneness of humanity. Because of the fear, the countries tried to mass their armament. Because of fear, because of the struggle for power, not because of oneness of humanity. So as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, what happens in Russia, Ukraine, this shall pass. But the lesson, what is the lesson? The lesson is that we cannot go back, Mr. Putin. No, we cannot control aggression by sanction. Think about it. For 40 years, over 40 years, we sanction Iranian government from human rights abuse. Who suffered? Not the leaders. The leaders are wandering around with their families throughout the universe. The average person suffered. So as you can see, sanction doesn't help. It prevents, it controls, but it is not a real solution. What is the problem, therefore? First, we have to understand the problem. The problem is denying the oneness of humanity as one family. If we understand that, then many other principles kick in. If there is a oneness of humanity, then individual transformation is needed. We need to love one another from heart to heart. Please pay attention. But how can we love each other if we do not have good understanding, irfan, recognition, knowledge? So this is why we need humanity as a whole to be able to learn, to earn better mental abilities, to discern facts from ideas, delusion from reality. This is why compulsory, universal educational system is needed, that each individual can learn that what is the purpose of reality, what is the purpose of existence, that they do not glory in their nationality, in their race, in their color. So as you can see, there is an individual level. And this individual transformation, if it is based on oneness of humankind, then you can evaluate all of your system of thinking, all of your philosophical system. You do not say, God said it. You say, God means love. God means source of good. So let's see, how does these ideological religion, philosophical ideology help me to be a better person? Then you can see that you become global thinker. You become critical thinker. Then your heart aches when somebody else aches. As a society, then we have to evolve also. If the society is able to think, then the power will store in society. Then power means ability to serve, not ability to control. Then we learn that there is one universal, global, international body is needed, not to control us, not to over-centralize us, rather to make sure that all parts of the system in the banner of unity and diversity, they can function under the banner of oneness of humanity. Do we have that organization? No. Are we really in need of it? Absolutely. There are so many benefits. The benefit is that we spend billions, trillions of dollars on armament. Why one country has to be so powerful in terms of military, but average person is suffering? Look at Russia, look at US. These are the two examples. Why the people have to buy guns? Because there are no security. Why there are no security? Because people do not feel safe. What is safety? Safety is not only physical, that they do not have it, is emotional, is human relationship, is ability to manifest what you have to offer. You have come into this world to offer something to humanity. You are distinguished. What is it that you want to offer? I know we busy ourselves from this meeting to that meeting, from Zoom to Clubhouse, from Clubhouse to Telegram. Good. What are we contributing to? What do I do today which is different from yesterday? Do I need a new principle? I believe yes. Am I disappointed and believe that the world goes through chaos? Yes, it goes through chaos, but I am hopeful. I believe a new generation of humanity will be created from the ashes of these worthless minds who are still stuck in old ideologies. A new race of man will be generated. What is the solution? Solution is a spiritual. Solution is a spiritual, moral, ethical, and then it is economical, because if the economy is not supported by the spiritual humanism principles, economy can divide people. Please pay attention. What am I suggesting as a conclusion, if I may, is that be hopeful. Do not rely on Daniel said 2/3 of humanity are going to perish. These are not a good thought. Be a positive thinker. Say tomorrow will be better than today, rather than saying that we become a victim. You try to learn from the past and create a new future by creating a new paradigm. What is a spiritual solution? A spiritual solution is not philosophical. This is why, you know, ladies and gentlemen, I have a lot of respect for many of the philosophers, many of the scientists. But science, philosophy, and even religion cannot help us if it is not in support of a spiritual principle of oneness of humanity. See, if there is a oneness of humanity, then you do not adhere to an ideology, whether scientific, whether political, whether religious, that tells you that you are better than other human beings. You would not have a title such as infidels. You are not saying that women are beneath men. You can be a philosopher and say it. Kant said it, Nietzsche said it, Plato said it. See, why do we mention them? It is only to tell you that no philosopher can give you a spiritual solution wholly. We respect Plato, we respect Kant, we respect Nietzsche, but we do not make an idol of them. We actually find out today that the reason that a person such as Nietzsche is that strongly anti-woman is because of his own experiences with the love that was broken. You see, as a psychologist, it's easy to understand these things. But what is a spiritual solution? A spiritual solution is a holistic solution. Can anybody in this world offer a holistic solution, which is not culture dependent, race dependent, gender dependent, but considers the value of gender differences, cultural differences? I call that a new order. I call that a paradigm shift. Is it really that source is God, is, as Spinoza called it, is nature? You find out for yourself. Whatever is it, it is metaphysical. By metaphysical, I do not mean imaginary. Means those laws and principles that humans have conceived, those philosophies that the people have composed, they are all subject to evaluation. We need a new world order. We need new institutions. Do we have those institutions? We may have administratively institutions that maintain order. This is why administrative order is different from world order, religious order. Administration, we always had it. America has it. Nobody can beat America, but they do not have that which is required, a spiritual principle, that we run business in order to create a better world for humanity. Then we will see that the fear will be replaced by what we call khashiyatullah, fear of God. God, please pay attention. Fear of God is different from fear that we are using ordinarily. God means all good. God means the source of all good, means the good which is universal. When we fear that source that generates love, this is why they say, and majority of the religious people have not understood that the fear of God generates love for humanity. Fear of God means that I consider consciously that I have to be good to others. I should not be evil to my own self, let alone. Love creates a kind of inhibition which is different from the fear of consequences. And that will be generated by obedience to the laws that are maintaining that global order based on oneness of humanity, but through the spirit of love, not fear, not the example of who is better than others. So we should not rely on these prophecies that 2/3 of the world will go away, the third world war will come. Do not live by theory of chaos. Live by the theory of hope. Live by the theory of a new world order. Then you see that the only solution is to redefine everything, create a new individuals, a better society, and most importantly, better leaders who come from these enlightened individuals and a spiritually oriented society. Then you see a new world order as it is in the heaven to be realized on the earth. Sorry for the long explanation. Okay, John. So, John, any questions?
We currently don't have a question that's been asked, but we're very happy to see everyone to ask a question. If you could please raise your hand, we will gladly call on you. If you could type your question here, we appreciate that as well, even more. Brandon, you had a comment you mentioned earlier. Would you like to elaborate and ask a question on that note?
I can't see the comment at the moment because I accidentally exited the chat real quick. It was about the philosophers of the time, I believe.
Yes.
Oh, he was talking about the "we are one" comments, and I was agreeing with most of what he said. I was saying that most of the time for this, I was saying that it was kind of short-sighted for some of the people to, of course, they were addressing major issues in history,
Mhm.
but they don't address the deep-rooted issues that we tend to address when we're having talks about personal issues in life that cause chaos in external environments. So they do solve issues when it comes to their point in time in history, but they don't solve the issues that come to where people end up having major flaws in themselves that cause them to act out on the rest of humanity, as in racism, etc., separating themselves from others and not being able to care for each other because, like he was saying, we are all one family.
Yeah. Do you know, I think that is a very good observation. Yeah, now I put the hat of a psychologist for you that, you know, individuals, when they are born, they come with some predisposed characteristics. It can be cultural, it can be biological. So the childhood is very important. That what is the child is exposed to. Right now, the psychologists will tell you that the first year acts as a crucial year because the child starts to create a paradigms in the heart and the mind. It is very interesting that the root of all of our problems will go back to the first year, and please pay attention that the first year includes that 9 months in the womb. That is to say, how a personal traits will develop. These are the questions that right now psychologists, sociologists, philosophers, they all collaborate to understand. Who is me? Who is Habib? Who is John? Who is X and Y? Is it the cultural component that has made me the way that I am?
That's definitely a large question in philosophy, whether it's nature versus nurture.
Exactly.
And that's something we've been talking about a lot in the fireside chats.
Exactly. Exactly. I want to go a little bit deeper to say what causes nature. Is it really nature, or it is an imposition of the natural law?
It comes to a point where it's survival. People believe that creating a persona and being the top of your food chain, your social environment, is how you get to continue on surviving, because we don't have the needs of having to go out and hunt and stuff. So our environment is how we stay on top.
Exactly.
So, yep.
But what we are trying to see that, animals do the same thing, my friend. We are but we are human, right? We are bracing ourselves as the best of the best in the ladder of creation. And we are the image of God. We are the center of universe, really. And we are only for the defense against insanity. We try to adopt a culture or adopt a custom or adopt an ideology. That is the paradigm that we should break, and we should.
And throughout time, we have come to that realization, especially through the mirrors of God himself, that we are in that position. But when it comes to regular civilization, and we've talked about this multiple times in the fireside chat too, people get parented to the point where their parents are caught up in the social game and they don't get taught the correct things. They're not nurtured with love and stuff. Their parents are out at work, etc. They're not taught with love and self-importance and relationship with God.
See, the self-importance, now I look at it as psychologist. Why do you think that I have to defend myself, that I'm important, that I'm this, I'm that?
Important might not be the right word.
It is a weakness. See, my point is humanity, individual, when
self-love maybe
finds itself in a situation that feels it is attacked, it is undermined, then tries to create a defense. We are saying that the choice of that defense actually has to be proportional to that energy that is released by the universal order. So as you can see, it is a very, very hard task to do. Why do you think we have social anxiety? Why do you think that about the majority of the people of the world, over 70%, have experienced some kind of depression? Is because lack of worthiness. Lack of worthiness comes when we forget crisis and victory.
Which is why one of the things that is taught by Baha'u'llah and some of the mirrors is very important, which is family and parenting and teaching that.
That's okay. You are absolutely correct. It's not only Baha'u'llah, because this page or this Zoom, my aim is that everybody can relate to. I do not want to adopt any ideology or enforce any ideology.
100%, all the prophets.
It's a natural phenomenon. See, Baha'u'llah, Jesus, Moses, Kant, Plato, they survive when the things that they say is naturally coordinated with the universal order.
Correct.
This is why we, rather than Baha'u'llah said that, Moses said that, I know that is a good practice, but we better just pay attention to what is being said. What is being said and how does it call dynamic in humanity, in a social cohesion. And we have to start from the individual. You know, ideology doesn't help. I have seen many, many patients throughout my psychological service. These people have one prayer on the left pocket, one prayer on the right pocket, and then when they come and see me, they say, Doc, I have to go and read my obligatory prayer and come back. Please pay attention. We have to go deeper. A spiritualization of humanity is different from religiosity. Religiosity has to start from within, has to transform the heart and the mind.
Yes, sir.
Do you see that? See, it is more practical to think as transformation of the heart and mind, and then evaluate ideologies, whether it is Baha'u'llah, whether it is Jesus, whether it is Marx, whether it is Kant. See, I want to be open-minded. By reading them exactly on our own, not through the eyes of others, and then see it, how it impacts our life. Then we have nurturing pattern of getting rid of natural tendencies. Make sense, sir?
I completely agree with everything you're saying. Baha'u'llah is somebody I've been introduced to recently, but I started with philosophers and religion to begin with. It is a deep ingrained problem of not having that self-worthiness and connection to God. And I completely agree with what you're saying. So
Yes, and now even I go greater because I might have some people who listen to this program which they don't believe in God. God also has to be defined for the person who wants to have a personal transformation. See, some people want to have just socialization. It's good to get together, pray together, break the bread together, fast together. That's good. But when you are in the privacy of your chamber, all those values have to manifest. How you think, how you feel. Do you feel alone inside of you? Or do you want to always join somebody else? Does being with others have to nourish what you have internally, or it just have to create nobility in you? See, I am posing some hard questions, and unless these questions are answered, for instance, I believe in God, but what is God? God is a source of all good. Regardless of who you are under the sun of all good. When the sun shines, it shines upon everyone. It doesn't ask, are you a Jew or a Christian or a Baha'i or a Persian or an Arab or a... These are our assumption, delusions. The more we break this delusion, then we see with the eye of God, we hear with the ear of God. Then we understand this passage of the Bible, kingdom of God is within thee. So it all starts from within and it manifests outside. Make sense? Then,
100.
and only then, we see God in every face, in every land. This is why when they ask Muhammad, where is God? He says, wherever I look is the face of God. When they ask Rumi, where is God? He says, please show me the place where there is no God. See, God doesn't have a place. God doesn't have an attribute. But God is an unknowable soul. You can call it nature, inner nature. Or you can call it inner soul. You can call it global mind. It doesn't really matter. How does it make a transformation in you? That you, when you see me, you respect me as a human being, not whether I am a Baha'i or a Persian or a Muslim or a woman. That is where ideologies has to be evaluated. And that is what the crisis of current age is. Because we still judge people and prejudge people. I have learned my lessons, my dear friends. I work with the people who mentally, some of them are retarded. I have learned the most valuable in spiritual principles from them. I have learned that when it comes to the point that you deal with another human being, you have to throw out everything but humanness. I see a person who is mentally retarded, but through the force of authentic love, feels that exists. And we even have seen the people change in their mental manifestation of abilities. So the answer is love. But love is not an emotion only. Love is cognition, is action, and it is cohesion. And
Yes.
this is the cohesive force that we call religion. Religion is only valuable when it is religio, to reunite. I am separated from myself. I want to be united. That is religion. And in terms of how to be united, then I read all of these books which are behind me. And the ones that separates me from myself, I have to throw it in the garbage can. I would respect the author as a human being, but I say that that book doesn't help me anymore to become a good human being. Make sense?
100%. I was going to ask you a question that we were talking about yesterday, which was how do we address the problem that people have so many self-lacking ideas that they don't go out and share love with the neighbors. They have so many problems in their own life and so many problems with the world that is today that they don't go out and spread love and make the world a better place, when going out and spreading love and making the world a better place would make their own life better, and they would not feel that lack on the inside because they don't have the problems themselves. But you came to kind of the same conclusions that we were talking about, which I greatly appreciate, which is the only thing you can do is give that attention and love to the people around you and spread it.
And regardless of what will be the response. See, some people do not like rejections. Rejection is bad, but some people say rejection is not necessarily bad, because the people who reject, they are not rejecting your love. They are actually defending their own biases.
Mm-hmm.
And the more you are authentic in your love and your relationship, and you do not go and knock the door of your neighbor because you want to impose ideology on them. If you are authentic, if you really want somebody else's life to transform to happiness, not because you want to gain more followers, then they feel your love. Then they become encouraged to spread love. Do you know there is a very important passage by Jesus when he says, I have come to make you a fisherman, to go and catch human beings. Today we see the people such as Paola. He says, we do not want to fish others. We want to quicken others. We want to be a quickener of humankind. But how can I become a quickener of humankind if I am not myself quickened? If I do not experience love, I know I can believe in love. I believe in God. I believe in manifestation. I believe in humanity. But if I do not see good in myself, how can I say I am a believer in God when God is nothing but the source of all good? How can I say that I love love? What do you mean? If it is not only emotional attraction, do you love the people who oppose you? Do you only love people who agree with you, who share the same thinking as you do? These are the challenges of our time. That can we break all those layers that separates us from our own selves and then separates us from others? Do you know another thing I tell you? When you want a spirituality, you know how does the spirituality comes to you? Through test. If you say you love everybody, suddenly you see a very, very nasty person comes and fills your day. You can judge him, you can belittle him, you can pray for him because you are better than him. Do you see all of these dynamics? All of these things can show you whether you actually have won the battle.
I love it. And that's why self-work is so important. And I completely appreciate your time and your point of view, because if you cannot relate to people without trying to push your perspective, then you're just not doing it the right way. You're going out and looking for your own appreciation instead of trying to help others.
Exactly. See, some people get together because they say that, oh, he thinks like me. Go to these clubhouses, go to these meetings. There are actually is a fight of ideology. He said this, I want to defend that. Let's put it aside. If Jesus, Plato, by your objection or your affirmation, no gain is for them. They are alive. Although they are physically dead, they are alive. Can you also be a little Plato of your own? Rather than just another 7 billion that live 70 years, 80 years, 100 years, and then you go under the dust. These are the questions that has to come into the clubhouses. It's not the issue of Islam, Baha'i faith, Judaism, communism. Forget it. These are childish. Survival of humanity is not in these ideologies. I love these passages that it says your glory should not be in your ideology, not in these monies that you spend on the structures of your ideology, the degree in which your personal life is reflecting those oneness of humanity and love for all is the greatest manifestation of your ideology. Okay, John, what is the next and last question?
Well, we had honestly Albrecht and we had Anna type a question in the chat.
Okay.
Since
Albert, go for
Albrecht had raised first.
Thank you for your time, Dr. Riazati. And similar to conversation with Brandon, I wanted to bring up another angle to this, maybe a more challenging one, if I may, and that has to do with the World Bank reported that 50% of the population is basically struggling with basic needs. So they're at the bottom of the Maslow's hierarchy, right? They're just trying to survive. There's a top 10% that somehow or another owe 80% of wealth and power in the world. And then there's the 40% in between. And out of this 40%, I think most of us are part of that 40%. Top 50% are trying to get to the top 10% and become rich. And the bottom 50% are trying to not fall into the poverty line. As we know in America, you're literally one major illness away from disaster, to losing your house and all that. So how do you go out? I get it. I agree with Brandon. Go out and show love, but no one is looking for love. People are either looking to continue, and I mean, I get it that it's a bit of pessimistic. So I'm trying to level it off, balance it out with your invitation to optimism. But how do you go spread the love and this concept of oneness of humanity when they're not even looking for it?
Yeah. See, sorry, I lost my voice. We think that they are not looking for it. Change your paradigm. Everybody is looking for an authenticated love. not for a Valentine's love format, not I love you because I want you, not I love you because I need you. I love you because you are a part of me. Who told you that they are not looking for love? They are guarding against the non-authentic love. Do you understand the difference? That is to say, how do I know that you really love me? Unless I get to know you, unless I deal with you in a different aspect of life. How do I know? How do I know that you are actually do not show me love because you want to propagate your ideology that I join? How do I know? The way that I know is I meet you at different levels. Trust has been so shattered between the person with his own self, let alone with the others, that you want to, they trust you, you have to gain the trust. And you said it right. When you can see so much economical differences, what do? Do you feed them? Or do you quicken them? Do you give them fish? Or do you teach them how to catch the fish? These principles of change are required. Love doesn't come that easily. I know we are living in the West, just I send a heart emoji to Mr. John every day. Today I send 10, 15. That doesn't mean anything. That means something, but doesn't mean anything. How do I talk with him? How do I appreciate him? When he does something that I really don't like it, do I question his motives? Do you see, my dear friend? So we have to be patient. We have to also have something which is very important, sacrifice. Jesus sacrificed himself for us to gain spirituality. Socrates sacrificed himself for us to understand. Asking a good critical thinking is so important. See, he wasn't impatient. He knew that the rulers and the leaders didn't like him because he opened the mind of the youth. And maybe the parents didn't like him and they put him to death. Do you remember? When I say remember, just go and read the trials of Socrates. Even his closest companion said, just say, forget it and be alive. And his answer was, what is the purpose of life? So you have to also be patient when you manifest love. You have to understand that when you show love, you have to get rid of your biases. I love the passage in Gita, Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna tells Arjuna is a first believer, like for Christian, the first believer, Muslim, Baha'is. So he was a first believer. The first message of this leader to this believer was, fight. He said, what? He said, fight. If you want to have love, if you want to have justice, if you want to have unity, fight. This is where the word jihad came. Fight? Fight with what? He said, fight with those ideas, with those desires that separates you from another human being. My dear brothers, do not quote me, the current philosophers. Do not say Baha'u'llah said it. Do not say Jesus said it. 3,500 years ago, Krishna said it. And before him, many people said it. The reason that you see that again Baha'u'llah says it, again Kant says it, again tomorrow somebody else says it, is because we have neglected it. So let's do not glory on who said it. Let's become a center of transformation, of understanding what did they say. According to Gita, he said there is one universal self. When you share love with somebody else, you are sharing love with your universal self. Why do you think Moses, Jesus, Muhammad, Baha'u'llah, he says, whosoever knows his own self, he knows God. But what is that self? You have to ask question from these men. What is self? And they all answer you what Krishna answered. Universal self. A self which is global, authentic, inclusive, cohesive, and interdependent. Thank you for your question. Okay, John. It was last, right? And it is 12 o'clock. You have to go to bed, John.
Yes, it is midnight here. I apologize, Anna. We couldn't get to your question. It's just.
If it is short and simple, say it, Anna.
Sure. Anna, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here. It's okay. No big deal. I just wanted to summarize, say my understanding is that if we just understand the main point that we're all united in the sense that we truly are interconnected, the world, everything from vegetable kingdom to animal to us, everything is all connected together. Then I guess my understanding is that if people truly understand that, then there will be less wars, less chaos, more peace, both individual level and globally. Is that the good takeaway from this talk? Is that good?
Of course,
Okay.
because when you have love, then you have appreciate everything.
Sure.
Animal kingdom, vegetable kingdom, everything that is on the face of the earth has been created by the force of love, and it exists by the force of love, and it propagates by the force of love. Very good conclusion. And thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for putting time and energy, and hope to see you in 2 weeks. Right, John? And there is no password and everything. Just they click the link and they come in, right?
Right, Jeremiah? I'm kidding.
Yes.
Yes. That's the
Very
case.
good. Thank you, Jeremiah,
right.
and everybody else for your help. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.
No.